UConn heads into its second season under head coach Bob Diaco, with 13 returning starters, including 7 on defense. Quarterback Tim Boyle is the only returning player on the roster who saw time behind center last season, but NC State transfer Brian Sheriffs will provide competition at the QB position for the starting nod this fall. Right now, it seems like the Huskies have more options at running back than receiver. 4 backs, including Ron Johnson, who showed potential in his freshman season, rushing 45 times in the final 2 games, including a 101-yard performance against SMU. Max DeLorenzo is another rushing option with nice open field capabilities. The only returnee that caught at least 10 passes last year and at least 6.5 yards per target was Arkeal Newsome. Noel Thomas had a nice late run last fall, catching 18 passes for 208 yards against UCF, Army, Cincinnati, and Memphis during the second half of the season. Defensively, 5 of last year's 7 linemen and 4 of 5 linebackers returned, while the second string could feature more young upside than any other area of the UConn defense. Linebackers Marquise Van and Graham Stewart combined for 199 tackles last season and are 2 of the better players in the conference at that position. Size shouldn't be an issue either. The top 4 tacklers on the line averaged 6'3", 303 pounds. And each of the top 5 linebackers is at least 225. Taking a look at the 2015 schedule, 3 weeks into the season, the Huskies will head on the road to face SEC opponent Missouri before kicking off conference play at home against Navy. They will then have 2 more challenging games following that when they visit BYU and UCF. In the second half of the season, UConn will have to face another tough stretch that includes Cincinnati, East Carolina, Houston, and Temple. With a good majority of its returners eligible to play through the 2016 season, Bob Diaco will continue to rebuild this Huskies team. And to talk more about UConn, we have John Silver from the Journal Inquirer on the phone with us. That's up next. Welcome back. We're now joined on the phone by John Silver, assistant sports editor of the Journal Inquirer. He's been covering UConn football the past 9 seasons. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us today, John.
Anytime. It's my pleasure.
All right, so tough year for the Huskies last season, but what were some of the takeaways from Bob Diaco's first year?
First off, this was really, when they say a rebuilding job or a rebuilding year, the first thing you have to do is tear down the old infrastructure, and I think that's what's going on here, and you saw a lot of it in the first year when Coach Diaco took over last spring. There was, the way they do things is different. Almost everything about how the program is run is different, and that took a big adjustment for players, because for the previous 10 years, and even longer, from the Randy Edsel era to Paul Pasqualoni era, it was the same way things were done. So I think you saw a lot of not necessarily building. They're tearing down, and they're trying to lay the foundation. You had to get things ready, and when the season came, and what happened during the season, that was more of like, they just started to put the foundation down. So I mean, they have a long way to come, but they have come a long way since he took over, maybe going on 18 months ago.
Yeah, like you mentioned, still rebuilding, but what would you say is the most important next step in the rebuild, and what is Bob Diaco focused on the most this offseason?
I think that they have to start getting some semblance of an identity for the team on the field. I think we get a pretty good sense of who they are off the field and what kind of players and characters and that UConn football wants to represent. We know what Bob Diaco wants the team to look at, but on the field we're going to have to start seeing some results, and that's going to start with a power running game. The Huskies are going to want to feature the run. They're going to want to make a power running game. They want to be a physical offensive line up front. They weren't that at all last year. So that's the number one thing that's going to have to happen to this team this year, is they're going to have to start with the running game. They're going to have to start getting back to basics, just play first and second down run plays, and that's where we're going to have to see the difference, and that's where this UConn football season is going to start, is up front, specifically on the offensive line and in the running game.
Let's talk a little bit about the quarterback battle. Tough time finding an established quarterback. Could Brian Sheriffs be the guy?
I think so. Coming out of the spring, the Sheriffs impressed enough over Tim Boyle, who started the last couple games last year, and there's two reasons that Sheriff stands out above Boyle. The first is Sheriff doesn't make mistakes, and that's interceptions, that's fumbling, that's just making risky plays down the field. A mistake doesn't necessarily have to be a turnover. It's putting the ball at risk that it potentially can be a turnover. So that's the one thing Sheriff does good. He's very smart with the ball. He's very cautious with the ball. He protects the ball. Also, Sheriff has a lot more mobility than Boyle, and can throw and run outside the pocket. And when you have a struggling offensive line, you want a quarterback who can make things happen outside the pocket and on the run and improvise. And I think that and Sheriff's running ability and just general accuracy with the ball, it has him in the lead. It's not set in stone, but if I had to think and bet right now, I think Brian Sheriff starts at quarterback for the Huskies come September.
Now, Coach Diaco, being a defensive guy, what is this year's defense shaping up to look like?
The defense is shaping up to be, I think it's going to be the strength of the team. It's going to be very good at the linebacker level and up front. They do lose Byron Jones, first-round draft pick, in the secondary, but they played the final 4 or 5 games last year without him because he was hurt. So when you look at the defense, something like 9 or 10 starters are going to return on the team. And the defense last year was good at times, but then it had some breakdowns. I think this year we're gonna see what Diaco really wants in his defense, which is generating pressure with the front, with the 3-man front, and maybe a linebacker pass rushing, and then just using the rest of the defense just to stone cold stop teams. I mean, the defense isn't designed to get sacks, turnovers, or anything like that. It's designed to maybe bend a little, don't break, and then stiffen up when it needs to. And I think they're well positioned to do that because I like the look of the linebacker core and the defensive line.
Now, the Huskies have a tough non-conference schedule and conference schedule. What would you say are realistic goals for the team this season?
It's going to be tough. I think it's going to be better than last year. I think you have to take wins and losses off the board when relating. Like, I can't put a number on it. I can't say, well, if they don't win 6 games to make a bowl game, it was a disappointment. I think it would be a disappointment if they didn't get there. I think your minimum goals should be to become 500 and bowl eligible. But realistically looking at it, UConn's schedule is very difficult. They have road games at Missouri, at BYU. They play Cincinnati, UCF on the road. I mean, it's really a tough schedule for a team coming off 5 wins the last 2 years like UConn. So there really aren't any quote unquote easy games on the schedule. I mean, even their one AA game is against Villanova, which is the top 5 team in the FCS and has the FCS Player of the Year. So these are going to be tough games. So if we can see progress on the field with UConn in their running game, having a confident offense, and not blowing up on defense and not turning the ball over here and there and making silly plays, I think that will be a win-win for the team. As far as wins or losses, between 3 and 6, I can see a realistic 7 if everything goes great. I think anything above that, then something different was going to have to happen than we expected.
Is there anyone you could see surprising people this season? Maybe a name we haven't heard before.
A player I can see. You know what? I really like the running back Ron Johnson. He was a true freshman last year, and he kind of split the carries with 4 or 5 other backs, and there wasn't really any rhyme or reason to who got the carries. And at the end of the year, he ended up getting the majority of the carries, largely because he didn't fumble the ball. And when you look at his freshman season, he had a little over 400 yards. He had 3 touchdowns, and his average carry was under 4 yards a carry. But what I like about him is he's big, he's physical, and he knows how to get downhill. And if this offense progresses like I think, they're going to need a workhorse back who's going to be able to pound it in between the tackles. And that's Ron Johnson, because he sits there about 6 foot, 215, 220 pounds. And I just like the way he moves his legs. I like the way he gets downhill. I like the way he hits the hold, and he's a physical runner. And he's going to get a lot of carries because of that. And I see him breaking out more so than anyone else on the offense.
All right, John, thanks again for taking the time to talk with us today.
Okay, anytime. Thank you.
Again, John Silver with the Journal Inquirer. UConn kicks off their season at home September 3rd against Villanova. That's a Thursday night game, and you can catch it on ESPN3 or SNY. For the American Digital Network, I'm Haley Outen. Have a great day.